pornography on the internet so much. After a while it does become an addiction. We get drawn in there, and after a while we can't stop ourselves. Okay, you can stop yourself. There's other doorways you can go through, or maybe other windows on the net. So first of all, you've got to know it's a problem, and then do something to stop it. Obviously, one of the reasons why people get addicted is also there's a pleasure to it as well. And I was very fascinated to see the way the Buddha looked at sensuality by saying, yeah, there's a pleasure there, but there's also a payback afterwards. And the Buddhas, this is 25 centuries ago, he compared such sensuality like to borrowing money, taking out a loan, which is actually very deep and profound, because when, say, you are watching pornography or getting into some sort of sensuality, there's a lot of joy there at the beginning, but often we have to pay it back afterwards. And sometimes, like a loan, the only way you can pay it back is by taking out another loan to pay off the original debt, and the loan gets bigger and bigger and bigger until one gets into such a great financial mess there's no way that you can actually pay back your loan. And that is actually just a beautiful description of addiction, and actually how it happens, because we get sort of some pleasure back in the first, and then to get some more pleasure we have to do it again, but even more intense, and then more intense next time, until the pleasure, the only way we can get that pleasure is taking bigger and bigger doses of the drug, until we're really, really in a great debt. It's a very profound description of actually what addiction is and how it happens. And so the understanding that, please don't get that deep into any addiction that you get caught into such a debt trap. But it's also understanding that there are other pleasures in this world, not just the sensory pleasures. And it's true, the pleasures of just your family, friendship, romantic love rather than sexual love. Those other pleasures should also be recognized and should be emphasized, because it's the other pleasures can be used as a substitute for the instant gratification of some sensuality. So if you are addicted to some types of that sensuality, not just mindfulness, but give yourself another reward, another thing which is a bit more skillful than the one before. So that way that we can actually, we're not condemning sensuality, nor are we trying to prohibit sensuality by covering everybody up in a burqa or by saying it's evil. We're actually dealing with it in a wise way, so we can find our middle way. We don't go to extremes, so we have a means of stopping ourselves going to those extremes. We have gone to those extremes. We try and maybe learn a little bit of meditation so our mindfulness becomes more clear, so we can actually stop ourselves before we get to that point. So for example, if someone is addicted to pornography on the web, the mindfulness actually tells you, look, as soon as you sort of press that button and enter that site, you're lost. It's just like in AA or people addicted to smoking. It's once you picked up that first cigarette and it's in your mouth, that's too late already. You can't put it down then. And you have to actually stop before you pick the cigarette up. And to be able to do that, we have these wonderful techniques which we call programming mindfulness. By programming mindfulness, what you do when that trigger is not in front of you, when you feel comfortable, when you think it's actually no problem, that's when you put the suggestions into your mind. Say it's cigarettes, I will not pick up that first cigarette, I will not pick up that first cigarette, I will not pick up that first cigarette. Because as a meditator, I know just how the mind works. It is conditioned. You are susceptible to suggestion. And if you keep saying that to yourself again and again and again, in the quietness of, say, your bedroom, when you think it's not a problem, you say it then, when it's not a problem, it's not in front of you. When it's in front of you, it's too late. And after a while, what happens, say with a cigarette smoker, normally they would actually, they're trying to give up, but they see a cigarette and it's in their mouth before they even know it. Because it's habit. It's just like brushing your teeth. You don't even need to think about it. You've done it so often. But what actually happens when they develop that degree of mindfulness and they condition themselves, I must not smoke that first cigarette, I must not smoke that, I must not pick it up, I must not pick it up, I must not pick it up. What happens just before they're about to pick it up? The mindfulness actually clicks in. It's like an antivirus, not a Norton antivirus, a Buddha antivirus, which actually stops the habitual process. And the thought comes up, no, I won't pick it up. It's a very, very effective way of actually stopping addictions. And because the mindfulness is actually pre-programmed in there to say, danger, you're going to pick up a cigarette, or you're going to sort of start another affair when you're married, or I'm going to bet too much at the casino, or whatever else it is you're doing. And that programming is very powerful because that picks up the signal. It's like a little red light starts flashing in your mind, danger, 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 you're maybe going too far. And then you have the opportunity to stop yourself. A lot of times you can't stop yourself because you don't know what you're doing. The mindfulness isn't there, it's habits. And so that way we can actually stop ourselves. There's other ways of stopping yourself also, to remind yourself of the dangers, what happens when you've done that before. Because some of you, you have had affairs outside of marriage. Sometimes you may have even sort of had sex unknowingly with say a 15-year-old girl or whatever it is. You didn't know she was that young, or whatever it is, or you've been attracted to somebody at work who's, you're their boss. All these sort of very, very dangerous areas of our life. Be careful. If you made a mistake once, be careful, pre-program yourself. Don't go and create that pain and problems for yourself and others again. So you program yourself, danger, danger, danger. And once you have the program danger, danger, you have all other ways of dealing with this. Obviously, that moving away from the stimulus, if at all possible, move away from the cigarettes, get out of the casino, just move out of that office or whatever else there is. If there's somebody there who's really sort of attracting you too strongly, you have the choice to do that. So you're actually taking control of your sensuality if it's going too far. And again, throughout this talk, you've seen that I'm not saying sensuality is bad.